The June 9th, 2026 Forest Grove School District Board of Directors meeting is called to order at 5:30 p.m. We'll start with roll call of board members present. Alma Lozano. Here. Risa Franco. Here. Kate Grandusky. Here. Pete Truax. Here. And Christy Kotke is here. I'll look for approval of tonight's agenda.
I move to approve tonight's agenda as presented. Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and we're gonna move right into Forest Grove Education Association. Welcome Elizabeth with comments tonight. I have some quick runway there. Yes, we are meeting in the Joseph Gale Library tonight, and so we're adjusting to little chairs and a little bit of a different setup. And welcome to everybody in the audience and everybody watching online. And welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you. We can imagine that we're all fourth graders.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So yes.
Thank you for having me tonight. Good evening, Chair Kotke, board members, Superintendent West, cabinet, and community members. As we come to the end of a school year, I would like to take some time on behalf of the Forest Grove Education Association to reflect on the year, on where we've been, what we've accomplished, and the challenges we've faced, and what we hope to build together moving forward. This year's reminded us of something important. Schools are not buildings, budgets, or spreadsheets. Schools are people. There are students who walk through our doors every day, families who trust us with their children, and educators who dedicate their time, energy, and hearts to helping students succeed. There is much to be proud of this year. Our educators continue to show remarkable dedication to students, even while navigating significant changes and increasing demands. Across the district, our members served on committees, piloted new practices, mentored colleagues, provided feedback on district initiatives, and continued the daily work of helping students grow academically, socially, and emotionally. FGEA has worked hard this year to be a strong and constructive partner. We have worked to build a relationship with our new human resources team, supported educators through challenges both large and small, gathered and shared feedback on new and proposed initiatives, collaborated on academic calendar development, and worked to ensure that educator voices were represented in conversations affecting our schools. We hope to build a more collaborative working relationship with the district as we move into next year, creating a culture where state and federal laws and our contract are used as a floor to support our members rather than a ceiling. This year, we were proud to collaborate with the district on the creation of a new sick leave bank. We also worked together to offer a retirement incentive that created opportunities for long-serving educators while helping the district navigate difficult financial realities. These efforts demonstrate what can be accomplished when labor and management approach challenges with a shared commitment to supporting employees and sustaining our schools. We appreciate the opportunities we've had to collaborate with the district throughout the year. At the same time, it would be impossible to reflect on the year without acknowledging the difficult reality of our budget situation. The reductions announced this spring affected real people and real classrooms. For many of our members, this spring was one of the most emotionally difficult periods they have experienced in their careers. Educators found themselves balancing their commitment to students while navigating uncertainty about their own future and the future of their colleagues. Yet even during that uncertainty, we saw the very best of who our educators are. Colleagues checked in on one another, shared information, offered support, and worked to ensure that students remained insulated from the stress and disruption occurring behind the scenes. That sense of professionalism, compassion, and community is one of the greatest strengths of this district. Educators watched colleagues receive layoff notices. Educators have been transferred into unfamiliar positions. While there were 12 total layoffs, there were around 40 transfers, leaving our members wondering why so many transfers were necessary to accommodate the layoffs. School communities continue to experience uncertainty about what next year will look like. While we understand the financial challenges facing the district and recognize that difficult decisions had to be made, the process has been painful all around. One of the recurring frustrations this year was not simply the existence of difficult decisions, but the timing and transparency surrounding them. Educators often felt that we learned critical information after key decisions had already been made. When the information arrives late, it becomes harder for staff to prepare, support one another, and maintain confidence in the process. As we move forward, we hope we can continue improving in this area. Earlier communication does not eliminate difficult news, but it does allow people to process, plan, and participate more meaningfully in conversations that affect not only their professional lives, but the students they serve. Despite these challenges, I continue to be impressed by the resilience of our educators. As we look toward next year, our hopes are straightforward. We hope to rebuild trust where it has been strained. We hope for increased transparency and earlier communication around significant decisions. We hope for continued collaboration between educators, district leadership, and the board. We hope to engage in collaborative problem solving before decisions are finalized, whenever possible. And most importantly, we hope to keep students at the center of every conversation. Our educators want the Forest Grove School District to succeed. We want strong schools, thriving students, and a district that families are proud to be part of. Those goals are shared by all of us. The challenges ahead are real, but so are the strengths of this community. Forest Grove has talented educators, dedicated staff, supportive families, committed leaders, and students who deserve our very best. As we close the year, FGEA remains committed to working collaboratively, advocating for our members, and partnering with the district to ensure that every student has access to the high-quality education they deserve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I really appreciate that feedback. The feedback you always give is respectful. I'm happy to have you here in person today to do that as well. And I think those words about being collaborative and where we can work together to move forward are really helpful. And I appreciate the tone and your partnership and your leadership.
I appreciate
You, thank you.
Well done.
All right, let's see. We are now moving on to unscheduled public appearance. I believe we do have one public comment tonight. The board appreciates community members sharing information during public comments. Public comments can be made in person or through Zoom by submitting the designated form on the webpage. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, as is the protocol for board meetings. Board members will not comment or respond to questions. Public criticism or complaints about school district personnel are not allowed. We do have one public comment card turned in tonight, and it's Valerie Ingram. Welcome, Val.
Hello, thanks.
Longtime school board member herself. If you could say your name and for
Okay,
your.
Valerie Ingram, community member, and I'm here to just share a few words about Kate this evening. When I think about what it means to truly show up for kids, I think of Kate Grandutsky. For 15 years, Kate has sat at this table, not for recognition, not for convenience, but because she believed deeply and without reservation that every child deserves a chance to succeed. 15 years of budget meetings, policy debates, late nights, and hard decisions. And through all of it, she never lost sight of why we are here. Kate championed our libraries at a time when it would have been easy to look the other way. She understood that a well-stocked, well-funded library isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline, and she fought for it. She also made sure that students with dyslexia were seen, not as a note, not as a checkbox, but as children who learn differently and deserve the same shot at a love of reading as anyone else. Because of Kate's advocacy, real kids in this district have teachers who understand them, tools that work for them, and confidence they might not have otherwise. That's a legacy. It's not a plaque on a wall. It's a legacy that lives in our classrooms and in kids. Kate, this board is better because of you. This community is better because of you. We are so grateful, and we will not forget the standard that you set. Thank you so much.
Here.
All right, thank you, Val. We are going to move to board reports. Before we talk a little bit more about Kate's last meeting tonight, I would like to show a timeline for the application process for the open spot. And we have, oh yeah, we're getting there. It's coming. We heard from the last budget process, and Elizabeth just mentioned too, taking some feedback about making sure that we are very proactive in communication and trying to let people know what is coming as much as possible. So we took that lesson and we made sure when we posted this board application that we posted along with it almost a minute to minute from now until the actual appointment date is coming, the timeline of what to expect. And we have that on the site, not only for the applicants, but we wanted the community to be very clear on how this board is going through this process. And we also wanted the board to make sure that we are all clear on how this process is going to work. So when people ask about the process, anyone in the community can share from the webpage, both the application, and then with that application is a very distinct, more than what you see here, but a very distinct description of what steps we will be taking and even what to expect on the night of applications will be at our next meeting. Thank you to David Warner, who today actually took that timeline that's on the website and just put it together on a slide so we could just put it up for the public at this meeting today. We are right now, the vacancy will become effective tomorrow, but we have already posted the application. Application period is open until midnight on the 17th. And all of the applications will be posted online at the same time for the community to read as well as for the board to read. So that will happen prior to the June 23rd meeting. And at that meeting, the board will have each candidate come in one by one and answer 3 questions. Depending on, the board will make a decision on if those questions are an extension of already existing questions, but we also have the prerogative to perhaps ask all 3 new questions. The same 3 questions will be asked to each candidate. And right after that, those interviews are concluded, the board will have a little reflection time, which we will do on the dais quietly to prepare our notes and any notes that we've taken prior to that. And then we will have an open discussion on the board about the candidates, and we will look for motions to move a potential candidate forward. The board also has the option of not appointing any candidate. So anybody that has questions about that process or anything we missed on the timeline in detail, which again is on our website, please feel free to contact us and let us know, and we can make adjustments to make that as specific as possible. But thank you to the board, to Bethany and to Dr. West for working on making sure that this timeline is consistent with best practice and also very clear for the community to see. So with that, any comments from the board on that? Okay. All right, from that, we are going to move to spending a little bit of time talking. I don't want to say saying goodbye to Kate, but honoring Kate tonight. She has asked that she be able to speak first. I believe all the directors are going to say a few words. Dr. West is going to say a few words, and I'm going to pitch it over to you.
You're not gonna make me cry, are you?
No, nobody's crying here.
Okay.
I know, it's okay, Dawn.
Yeah, I'm sorry that, our secretary Bethany's not here because I finished making her a Christmas stocking and
You ought to see it.
Yeah.
it's supposed to be this big, but it is like this big. So I will bring it in on Friday, but it'll make her laugh. Anyway, a little bit of a journey. My kids grew up in Gales Creek. They went to Gales Creek School and they went to the high school. I worked as an aide, and then I worked as a teacher in special ed. And my last 5 years, I was in Forest Grove, then I went to Hillsborough, and then I came back to Forest Grove, but it was at Gales Creek. And it's a very special place in my heart. The community, I mean, the community is just a wonderful community. We have a garden club, we have, so many different things going on during the year to supply and make money for our community. We gave this year, the first time ever, a scholarship for someone from Gales Creek, and it's just a small community of generations of families. So, some of the homes, the great grandparents lived there. So it's just a really neat, and our Janine grew up out there, it's right across, or kitty corner across from the school. So in 2010, I decided to retire from teaching, and my thoughts were about travel and enjoying my passion of reading and gardening and quilting. However, the decision to close Gales Creek School became an unbelievable decision. Our community filled the auditoriums both at Gales Creek and also at the district office. Unfortunately, we were told that it was not financially viable, which was not a true statement. But what ended up happening is it really brought our community together in an unusual way. And as we all were talking, and then I kept asking questions, why? And then the next thing I knew, one of the parents said, would you run for school board? And that was not my idea of speaking up, of taking one job and going to another. So I said, sure, but I said, I don't know anything about running for office. And so this wonderful couple, they had built all these beautiful historical houses, the generations of 150 years ago, and they're in the historical room if you ever want to come out to Gales Creek. Well, they were coming to my living room and strategizing how I do this and what we needed and that, and I don't know, halfway through the campaign, a friend called me and she said, do you know those people are Tea Party people? I said, what, Tea Party? And I said, it doesn't really matter what they are. They're for students and they are really working hard for our community. They did so many wonderful things for our community, and they were the ones that got me and helped me navigate. It's not real complex, but it wasn't something that I had any idea that I wanted to do. And I ran, and it's interesting that you just never know who's going to help you and who is not going to help you. But the Cornelius community came out in great voting for me. And Ralph Brown, as many of you know, a wonderful person. He was a teacher, a principal, and the mayor of Cornelius. I beat him, and I didn't know how I did that, but I did. But it was not because of one person. And no matter what happens, it's never one person. It's a collective group of people. And they felt that we needed a spokesperson for Gales Creek. And we've had a number. We've had Melinda Fisher, who's been on the budget committee for a number of years, and we've had a couple other people in Gales Creek that have been on the budget committee, and then myself. And so it's really important that people periodically step up and come to different committees within our communities to help bring a voice, because your voice is very different. You look at the board right now, this is the best. We've got, we got 20, 30, 50, 60, and ancient here. And me, no, I'm talking about myself.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I'm talking about Peterman. But because of the diversity and because of the background educationally and culturally, it has been the most interesting year of the perspectives of the people on the board. And I've had a cold, so I'm not crying yet. So, so anyway, I got elected. And so began my 15 years on the school board. The first 4 years were very challenging ones. I survived only through the day of the board meetings by one, taking a nap before the board meeting, meditating, and always stopping at Scotty's for an ice cream cone. So I and then there was something that happened at those meetings. They just did not, the other board members, include me, and that happens. However, I'm very Irish and I get very stubborn, and so the thing that really happened was that no board member is limited on how long they can speak. Well, I took advantage of it. And no matter what the subject was, I did my research. And I went on and on. Whether it was those towers that, for our phones, they wanted to put some over at the Tuolumne Valley School. And there was research on concern about, does it affect the brains of our children? Well, I didn't know, so I did a lot of research, and it was one of those things where it was 50-50. But we had a long discussion on that one. And the last 8 years have been really, really productive. We had a new board, and what we did collectively, it's never one person, it's a group of people that say, hey, here's a need, how can we collectively make this work? We lowered class sizes, especially at K through second grade. We brought back outdoor school. We brought back a book budget for the libraries for the first time in over 10 years. We restored aids in the libraries. And we created a more collaborative and working team. And that is really what's really most important is you may not agree, but listening to another person's perspective and understanding their perspective, and then going forward as friends, not as enemies, but saying, okay, I see why we have to do this. For example, what happened this year? No one wanted to cut jobs. But the reality is that we just don't have enough money. And that's been what's been going on for 20 years in our school system, is that there's a real disconnect. And somehow what we need to do collectively is vote for people that are really going to focus on our students and focus on listening to our community of what we need, and also listening to our leaders in our school districts, what we need. You know, passing in Salem unfunded mandates never works because it has to come out of our budget. You know, years ago, we had reading, writing, and math. The percentage that we use for just technology for our school district, you know, it's just this big piece, just for the utilities, just for insurance. You know, all of those are important things that we have to do, but, you know, in the classroom, there's only X amount of dollars that we have for the classroom and for that creativity for the children. So, you know, that's been sort of the journey, and I think that at every meeting, if the word libraries come up, everybody laughs, because I'm always worried about cutting the libraries, cutting books. And so I always have to put a plug in. What I always say this is that if our children can read, they can do well in math, they can do well in science, they can do well in a lot of areas, but if they cannot read, and I've never understood the rationale of not robustly funding our libraries and our library staffs. And I always say this, and you know, okay, you're going to give a child a piano lesson, but with no piano, you're going to teach reading, but if they don't have any books, it's really hard. And it's really challenging more than ever because of the fact that we have so much technology. And our children, there's nothing better than curling up to a really good book. And your imagination goes away. And you can do that with a movie, but a book is really different. And they need it all, but we really need to really keep our libraries intact. So as my parting gift to the board members, I have a book for you. And it's called The Man Who Planted Trees. And this is a metaphor for what we do in our life to make a better place. The man in this book is on top of a mountain after World War II, and all the trees have been burned down and devastated. And he decides that one by one, he's going to plant a forest. And it's a book of hope. And today, we have other people that have actually done that. And I think you might know about the Great Green Wall, which is in Africa. 3 decades ago, in 1980, a woman from Kenya began to work with the Kenya's National Council of Women. They began to plant trees with other women and community members. This was a practical response to an environmental loss, which has now grown into the Great Belt movement in Africa. They have planted over 51 million trees that are surviving and changing the landscape for the entire community of people and animals. Her goal was to strengthen communities and protect the future for continued sustainability. This is now happening in China, and this is happening in India. Almost done. I know, it's terrible cough. And I wanted to bring that up and I share it with our board members because a lot of times we think that, and especially right now where people are not as nice as they should be to each other, or sometimes they feel absolutely hopeless. But it takes one person and it takes a village to change things. And Forest Grove has been very, very lucky to have really good, thank you. Forest Grove has been really good and lucky to have such a beautiful community. I wish for so many things for Forest Grove. I wish that we could be this creative entity out here with agriculture and wineries, and kids go to high school for 2 years, and then the last 2 years are being out in the community, whether it's in Hillsborough or Beaverton, and have Washington County become more a collective resource-rich community. But it takes energy and it takes vision and it takes people that really want to get out of their silo and look at a broader perspective, a broader vision. And maybe it will happen in my lifetime, maybe it won't. But there's a great deal of hope. And the last piece I want to share with you is something by Jane Goodall. And I wanted to say that my journey has been a journey of learning from everyone, sharing. I've had the biggest joy of reading to so many kids in this school district. I read a lot in this library. The library, though, I think needs to be bigger, but that's another day, but and always more books. But this is something that Jane Goodall said, and I hope you can hear it, because I think we need to remember, maybe I'm not going to get sullen here, that we can't do things alone, but we can really do it together. And we have some big challenges ahead of us, and we can meet those challenges, and we need to work together to meet those challenges. And we can't give up. So I'm going to play this, and I hope you can hear it.
I look back at the world I've left behind.
What
What message do I want to leave? I want to make sure that you all understand that each and every one of you has a role to play. You may not know it or you won't find it, but your life matters and you are here for a reason. And I just hope that that reason will become apparent as you live through your life. I want you to know that whether or not you find that role that you're supposed to play, your life does matter. And that every single day you live, you make a difference in the world. And you get to choose the difference that you make. I want you to understand that we are part of the natural world. And even today, where the planet is dark, there still is hope. Don't lose hope. If you lose hope, you become apathetic and do nothing. And if you want to save what is still beautiful in this world, if you want to save the planet for the future generations, your grandchildren, their grandchildren, then think about the actions you take each day, because multiplied a billion times, even small actions will make for great change. I just hope that you understand that this life on planet Earth isn't the end. I believe, and now I know, that there is life beyond death, that consciousness survives. I can't tell you from where I am secrets that are not mine to share. I can't tell you what you will find when you leave planet Earth. But I want you to know that your life on planet Earth will make some difference in the kind of life that you find after you die. Above all, I want you to think about the fact that we are part, when we're on planet Earth, we are part of Mother Nature. We depend on Mother Nature for clean air, for water, for food, for clothing, for everything. And as we destroy one ecosystem after another, as we create worse climate change, worse loss of diversity, we have to do everything in our power to make the world a better place for the children alive today and for those that will follow. You have it in your power to make a difference. Don't give up. And just
So that's really what this is all about. And I want to thank everyone for listening to me for go on and on forever, and but also for voting for me and for doing all the wonderful things you have done for children. Because that's really what it's about. It's about the children in our next generation. And even when we don't think we can make a difference every day, that smile at Starbucks, that joy that you give a friend, every single thing with intent to be doing good, it's really important. So thank you for letting me be here for 15 years.
And let me add that Kate's first words as a board member at the first meeting were, hey, what about me? And they found out.
Well, they weren't including my vote.
All right, we are gonna add a few thoughts. I'll start with Director Franco and work our way down.
I think I first want to say thank you. I think when I was first figuring out whether or not being school board was the right thing for me, you were so excited and so encouraging, and I think that really changed why I wanted to be on the school board. I was hesitant and just accepted you with warmth and gave me guidance, and I'm gonna miss having you and being next to you and getting to talk to you and our commentary about my policy buddy, so. And just always asking me about how my day was and telling me that it's okay if I don't know what I'm doing, because half the time I don't. And just learning and just being a mentor. So thank you, and I'm gonna miss you.
Director Truax.
Jane Goodall's comments about this planet remind me of Adlai Ewing Stevenson's comments about this tiny spaceship. We are responsible for it. And when we are responsible for it, we have to use all the tools. And one of the most powerful tools is that of knowledge, and you get that through reading. So, Kate, if you've done nothing else, and you have done a lot. The emphasis on reading is a godsend. It's not just learning to read at the elementary level, but using that tool to learn more at middle school and at high school and at the graduate level and beyond. Never stop doing that. There was a editorial in the New York Times yesterday called entitled "Make America Read Again." Chief librarian of the New York Public Library, Brian Bannon, wrote it and indicated that reading is making a rebound. We've gotten rid of book fines, and when you get rid of book fines in libraries, reading increases. When you make sure that reading is available across the city, across the school district, across anything to include those underserved communities, we become better people. So that's one thing. The other thing that I want to talk about, and this is a little lighthearted, the Gales Creek Mafia out here.
Yeah.
Mr. Hennig and Joyce and Celeste, they've all played a role, not only in this campaign for the kids, but in other campaigns to make sure that Gales Creek is not left behind. And they have worked on that. I'm sure we could spend time talking about tales concerning the Northwest Natural Gas Pipeline fiasco and how we all worked on making sure we brought that to its knees. My other comment about Kate was, one of her daughters was playing basketball at Forest Grove High School. And at the end of the particular basketball season, we made a coaching change. And the one coach left the program. And I was the athletic director, and I took a little time in finding another coach. I like to think it was because I wanted to make sure I got the right fit. And I was having lunch one day in the faculty lunchroom, and that's something administrators should never do, is eat in the same room as the teachers do. Well, actually, you should, and on that day, Kate came across the table to me and said, "You need to hire a girls' basketball coach." And I said, "Yes, I know, I need to." And one of the other teachers in the room indicated that it's just girls basketball, who cares? He meant it as a joke. And it landed with all the rhythm of a lead balloon. And I said to myself, as I'm walking out of there, I have to go down and talk to Bob Schlegel. Because I know Kate Grandusky is on her way to talk to Bob Schlegel about that particular teacher. And I also talked to the teacher and I said, you know, that was a pretty tone deaf comment. And he said, in retrospect, I think you're right. And so he apologized to Kate, he apologized to me, and he apologized to Bob, and Bob apologized to Kate also. That was, and that was one of the indications that our focus on athletics was changing in Forest Grove. That comment wouldn't have generated that kind of energy 10, 15 years before, but now it did then and it does now. So, and Kate played a significant role in that. I want to leave with one last comment. Again, back to Jane Goodall, even small actions make for great change. Kate, your small actions made great change in Forest Grove and in Gales Creek. And we thank you.
Thank you.
Director Lozano.
Thanks. I want to thank you. You've always been so genuine, so kind. You always find a way with people and you welcome diverse perspectives. You're really, really a beautiful definition of a leader in the community. So as a parent, as a community member, and as a colleague in the school board, I thank you for everything that you've done. And I wish you the very best out there. Enjoy your family and your grandbaby. Thank you.
And then Val actually talked a little bit about the front end of my little speech here, but I wrote a poem, an acrostic poem for Kate today, and I have a few things to present. But I am going to piggyback on what Val said. In a typical year, the board has at least 22 meetings on its original calendar. In addition to that, we meet in multiple executive sessions and additional meetings that must be stood up to respond to unpredictable situations. Board members also meet one-on-one with the superintendent, take calls from the board chair multiple times per week about logistics, and we have additional calls and emails that we respond to when daily events may occur. Add in the superintendent search process, of which Kate has been part of too, the time spent reading the bi-monthly packets and preparing for the board meetings, the policy committee work, the advocacy work we do in Salem, and participating in community events. It is a lot. And I know I'm selling the appointment. The appointments are available and open. But it is a job that brings, it's a job that is very important. But in 1 year for Kate specifically, who additionally volunteers weekly at Cornelius Elementary and at the Gales Creek Library with Joyce, it is well over 600 hours in a year, times 15 years, which is over 9,000 volunteer hours. Wow. Those are hours that require a person to be collaborative, selfless, informed, and steadfast in their commitment to the district's mission and vision for supporting an educational system that will provide all of our students with the education they need and deserve. Lucky for us, Kate is that type of person. So it's funny that two of the gifts we're presenting tonight actually were mentioned. The first, Kate doesn't need things because she is traveling and going to New Zealand and all the way back. But what Kate is most passionate about is reading. And so we have 3 sets of books, both in Spanish and English, for her to give to a family at Cornelius that they can take home for their home library, because she's very passionate that kids must have books
I'll be
at
there
home.
tomorrow.
So we put together some Spanish and English early reader books all the way up through 4th grade for families.
Great.
And secondly, although we are going to have a special treat at the recess, I've talked about this before. There is a place in Portland and it's called Kate's Ice Cream Shop. And if anyone has never been to it, it is amazing. And it has one of Kate's very favorite flavors, pistachio. And so in addition to the treats that we will have for everybody in a moment, which I believe is also ice cream, we're sending her home with some specialty pints. Dawn, those are off limits just for Kate. Of Kate's ice cream. And I'd like to close with my acrostic poem that I wrote for Kate, just for her first name, because nobody needs me to keep going on and on. K is for kind, and then I threw in caring and compassionate, even though those are C's. Kate wakes up each day thinking about what she can do for others. She works tirelessly and selflessly for the benefit of others, but mostly for the benefit of kids. A, altruistic. She leads by example. She spends her extra time immersed in teaching and supporting students to read. Her admiration and appreciation for the staff, students, and families, in particular at Cornelius Elementary and also at Gales Creek, runs deep. And she continues to teach well after her retirement from the profession. T is for teacher. Not only does she teach in the classroom, but outside of it. She has been a mentor to me, and she's provided a wealth of guidance that is due directly to her deep history with the district. She holds a high expectation for the board's performance as well as her own. And finally, E is for exceptional. Not only is her commitment to this district exceptional, her tenacious, relentless pursuit of ensuring every student has the skills to develop a love for reading has cemented a legacy that will endure. She is an inspiration, a leader, and a friend. Thank you, Kate, for your years of service and the lifelong impact your work will continue to have in this district. And with that, I'm going to toss it over to Dr. West. There you go.
That's hard to follow. Kate, what I want to share is important enough that I took the time to write it down. So I don't usually read directly from my notes, but in this case, I'm going to do that. We chose this space intentionally and with a very specific purpose in mind for tonight. As you all know, Board Director Kate Grandusky shared her decision to step down from the board recently. And while I think you're hearing from all of us how sad we are to see her time on the board come to a close, it does give us an opportunity to honor you. Kate's impact on our schools didn't begin on the school board. As we heard, it began in our classrooms where she spent years as a dedicated teacher, instilling a love of reading and learning in countless children. For the past 15 years, she's continued that exact same mission from the board dais. Throughout her tenure, Kate has been our fiercest, most consistent advocate for literacy development and library services. She's always understood a fundamental truth, that a school library isn't just a room full of books. It's a sanctuary for curiosity and a place where, through windows, doors, and mirrors that books provide, every single student feels a true sense of belonging. On a personal note, I want to thank you. My time here in Forest Grove as superintendent is still very short, but your support and your institutional insights have been invaluable. Equally, as much as I value those, your candor has been exceptional. I heard that. Well, as somebody who values that, I appreciate that you speak your mind. You're not shy about calling or sending a message to say, hey, this is something that I want to talk about. And we've had some really good conversations and you've asked some hard questions, and that has helped me be a better superintendent. And it's clearly helped our district over the last 15 years. Because you understand that teaching a child to read is an act of equity, and because your life's work has been about opening doors for children through the power of literacy, it's only fitting that your name is permanently woven into the fabric of our district. Therefore, on behalf of the Forest Grove School District Board of Directors, staff, and families, it is my honor to dedicate this space as the Kate Grandusky Library. Last week, we had lettering and a plaque applied, and we'll recess here in just a minute so that you have a chance to take a look at that. But moving forward, every student, teacher, family member who walks into this room will be reminded of a community leader who fought to ensure the resources to read, grow, and achieve the choices in life. So. You were the one that was supposed to cry.
We put together.
Yeah. Thank you for 15 years dedicated to kids. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just have to really say it's such a blessing to work with people like Dr. West, Christy, Oma, Hugh, Teresa. In some regards, every board is different, but this one was really different. I just learned so much this year. And you know, that's one of the things they say as you age, you need to challenge yourself and you need to try new things and learn from people. And I've learned a lot from Dr. West, but I just, you know, I wish that I had it in me to keep going, but there are so many good people that have different ideas and different perspectives and more energy. And I think that's what we need, but I am not going away. Tomorrow I'm going to Laura's classroom to help pack up. And I will come in the fall to help with beginning pre-kinders until we leave in November. And I will continue to read to the children because it is my love and passion, and I really appreciate that the school district allows me to do that, because that is a big joy of mine. And I really hope that everybody in this group realizes that they, guys, if you retire or not, there's always some kind of passion you have that you can keep. And I mean, and that's why many of you are friends of mine, because you keep giving them. And I think of you, Janae, you're just unbelievable person. So, yeah, but everyone, and Val and Joyce and Sue and Laura and all of these, and I saw somebody else that left. Ellen, I read in her class forever. And so again, thank you very much.
I think what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take a fifth, oh, and there's Kate's graduation picture. I think we're gonna take a 15-minute recess. We do have treats for everyone. Angela Graves is here. I know she's gonna say a few words in the foyer and we're gonna reveal the sign as well. So we'll take 15-minute recess, have a little ice cream and a celebration, and thank you, everybody.
Nicely done.
Right, calling the meeting back to order at 6:37 PM. We are moving on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent agenda a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? Director Truax.
I believe I'm looking for the right. Oh, come on. Where is it? Here we go. I would like to pull the May 26th board meeting minutes for discussion.
Yes. All right. So
And what I can do, or I also can, what I think we can also do at the same time. Is if there's no other item to be discussed on that consent agenda, we can. My understanding is that we can approve that remaining consent agenda and then discuss. The issues with May 26th meeting.
yes, so I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
So it's been moved and seconded to approve consent agenda item number 2, personnel, and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And then let's talk for a minute about the board minutes corrections. Director Truax.
Okay, I'm trying to get to that page and.
While you're getting there, I actually have an additional correction, and one of the items that needs to be corrected in those minutes is the discussion of the Forest Grove Garden Walk. And I think at the last meeting, I highlighted that at the Tuolumne Plains, Stephen Bernard had entered the Tuolumne Plains High School Community Garden. In the minutes, it's listed as the Tom McCall, several times Tom McCall Gardens. So I definitely want to make that correction because that is this Sunday, and anyone who is out and about, and also Saturday, Forest Grove Garden Walk free. My garden is also on the Sunday tour, and I invite anyone here to stop by that day, but I definitely want to make sure that those minutes are changed to reflect the Tuolumne Plains High School Community Garden, which is a new project that they've been working on for a couple of years. There's also separate to that, a typo somewhere on Director Truax's name, just with a TRUEX instead of
Right,
A. I
yeah.
saw that. Those are
Happens all
my,
the time, so that's no big deal.
those are my 2 things that I noticed.
My concern was, on my report, I was talking about attending the ceremony at Forest View Cemetery for Memorial Day. And at that ceremony, the Neil Armstrong Choir sang and did an excellent job. And I commented on that, and I also commented on the fact that the director of the Neil Armstrong Choir was also a guest speaker at that meeting, and somehow the minutes got confused that I was speaking at that, and that was not the case. And unfortunately, it also misstated my gender. So those 2 items needed to be corrected, and I make that note.
Any other corrections noted by any directors? Okay.
Do we need to?
I'll look for a motion to amend and accept amended minutes.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the minutes of meeting as we amended them,
For May 26th.
May 26th, yes.
Second. Discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
All right,
Opposed? All right, thank you for that. We're gonna move on to.
let the record note that Senator Solomon is laughing because for the first time in my life, I voted with a mouthful of yogurt.
Let's maybe not let the record show. All right, presentations. We're gonna start with the weekend food backpack program recognition with Erica Diaz-Profiano. Oh my gosh.
You're fine. Where would you like me to?
You can actually come up to the owl here to the table. That's our microphone today. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you. So my name is Erica Diaz-Tofayono, and I am the Family Resource Coordinator at the Forest Grove School District Family Resource Center, which is housed at Cornelius Elementary. And I just wanted to say a couple small things. I'll be quick, I promise, about the Forest Grove School District food backpack team. So tonight I have the honor of recognizing a truly amazing group of women who I believe are the heart and soul of the Forest Grove School District Backpack Program. This school year alone, they delivered 4,382 excuse me, food backpacks to students across our district. But what those numbers don't show are the countless hours that they spend shopping for the best deals, organizing, going out into the community and asking for donations, what I admire most about this team is their willingness to always say yes. There's been so many times when we've identified a student and I've gone to them and I said, can you get one more? Just one more. And I know that I tell them, this is the last one, I promise. And they always look at me and they say, let's do it. Send them. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. So they never focused on why they can't, but they always focused on how they can. Their compassion extends far beyond the backpack program. I remember one day I was packing hygiene items in the Family Resource Center, and Danielle was in there and she saw that I was short on items. She didn't say anything to me, but the next day when I came in, on the table, there was hygiene items. And I said, where did these come from? She went and bought them. So things like that. She just saw the need and immediately found a way to help. And that's just the kind of heart that she has. And then Heather shows up every week carrying the little baby that you see down there in hand, baby here, wagon here, full of food, backpacks, whatever, and with a smile. So she comes in there and she just jumps into whatever we need, constantly asking me, you know, what can we do to make the program better? Suggestions. She's always open to just asking whatever I can do to help, whatever you need, let me know. She is out in the community, always asking for donations, working hard on her Amazon wish list. You'll see her on Facebook community, always. I'll pick up this. You have extra soup? I'm coming to your house right now. I'll pick it up. She is just like, she knows everybody in this community and she will go to your house and pick it up. Then Nicole's amazing. She's also here. I don't know how she does it. She's a busy mom. She's a business owner and has so much on her plate, but every week she's there. She comes in there with a smile, always willing to help. And just always just like, what do you need? What can I help with? She's right there helping, either holding the baby or bringing in the food. So I think Nicole's commitment also shows that serving others isn't about having extra time. It's about making time for what matters. And then what many people, I think, don't know, that these women volunteer their own time. They use their own vehicles, their own gas, and we know gas isn't cheap right now, and they go all the way to Gales. I mean, they go everywhere. Even if it's for one student, they go. And they spend hours every week serving our students and families, and they ask us for nothing in return. They do it because they genuinely care about this community. I also want to recognize and thanks the Elks Lodge 2440 for opening their doors to the backpack food program. And they generously allow us to use their space to store supplies, to pack the backpacks. And without them, we wouldn't be able to do this. So we're incredibly grateful for their partnership and support. So tonight, I would like to recognize, if you're here, ladies, if you could come up, please. Heather Box, Danielle Wentworth, Nicole Holenbeck, Megan Surratt Harless, Mary Motto, Lily Box, and Bella Box. And then to each of you, I want to thank you for your time, your generosity, your kindness, and your servant hearts. Thank you for always finding a way to help one more student, one more family. Because of you, thousands of children had food to take home this year. But more than that, they knew that there was someone that cared. They always put something extra in there and they would know, like, this student doesn't like cans, so we're gonna add this, or this student is the nut kid. Make sure you don't. They know the students sometimes I think better than I knew. It was amazing. So we truly could not do this work without you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And these are Forest Grove High School student and NEOM student, so be very proud. We have leaders here.
I give you a hand, letter.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah. I'm gonna give you guys two more for our friends that aren't here. You can give it to them. Thank you. Yeah. The whole group. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you everybody for coming tonight to be here for the presentation. I think this is just what Kate was talking about earlier. It's the unseen volunteer hours for people that don't do this for any recognition other than that, you know, you're helping kids. But I think the thing that we that you might also not see is the impact that this undoubtedly has for families where their kids can feel cared for and have predictable just food and things to look forward to that then help how they perform and come to the district ready to learn. And so it's impossible to recognize in a small summary, although Erica, I think, did a really good job of describing some of the work that you do, but we know that that cannot possibly describe all of the work that you do in the unseen hours you spent. And so it's very appreciated. I think it's also really inspirational. And so for everybody else, again, that Kate mentioned, everyone in here that does those extras or does the volunteer, it's when you hear that other people are doing that work as well, that it inspires other people to keep going and do the work. And so really appreciate it. Any other words from the directors on that program? I know my friend Megan is part of that program, so she talks about that a lot. She's going to pack the lunches, and again, it's this unseen group of people that are consistent, and people depend on that consistency and that care, and it's just very much appreciated.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much for helping our students.
All right, we are going to move on to our school resource officer year-end report. Welcome, Sam.
Howdy, howdy. Thanks, sir. Good evening, school board. So I'm here to present kind of what I've been up to since the last time you guys saw me at the beginning of the year. So specifically through December 1 through May 31st. Just get quick recap here. What is an SRO? An officer specifically assigned to work with the unique community and culture of a school district and its schools. The SRO functions as a protector, teacher, mentor, and counselor, as well as a detective and a police officer. So here's the statistics for the dates I provided you with. Total calls to all Forest Grove School District, 695. Then you can see that broken down. Total calls to school locations specifically assigned to me, 409, and you can see the breakdown there. You'll see that during the presentation a couple times. It's because there was a several week period where I was on FMLA, and so patrol kind of had to step in to help out. So during this time frame, there were 695 calls to school properties between December and May 31st. Of those, again, I took 409, and my coworkers took 286. Majority of the calls taken by other officers on patrol are after hours, alarms, traffic stops, extra patrols, premise checks at the school, not primarily interacting with students. Here's a nice pie graph or chart showing where I'm primarily responding. Nothing really out of the blue for this year. This is all pretty consistent with years past. Looks like some of those numbers got cut off. Where, where it got cut off here on the right too, I just put a little note that where it dropped significantly, that's when I was on FMLA. I think though that if, I was here, that even the orange down at the bottom, I think all of those graphs would look significantly different. This is all recap as well. So calls involving students and school-related matters that do not necessarily take place at school. Approximately a quarter of the calls that I service end up being off campus. And that's saying that is more like me going off campus to service these calls. I don't have the statistic for like what of these calls actually happen at the school. I would say, if I was to give that statistic, more than half of the calls that I service are things that happen off school property and just typically get disclosed while at school. So is SRO position effective? Total for this school year, I took a total of 1,221 school-related calls for service. This alleviating work on school administrative staff, counselors, etc. I kind of just went around and I talked to the school administrators that I interact with the most, and I asked them, in your eyes, is the SRO position effective? And then I took their quote, and you can see, I just put it into the slide in the next slide.
And if I could, this information here is in response to the question that the board had around how do we know if the SRO program is working? So there is a evaluation process that is internal to the police department, and that is completely separate from program evaluation. But what I can say is that the Forest Grove Police Department is really good about touching base with the school leaders who they interact with most regularly and soliciting feedback. What is working and what?
Thank you. These are just some more quotes that I got from school administrative staff when I asked them that question. So some really nice things said in there. I appreciate it. I appreciate hearing some of that stuff from them. So just kind of beyond calls for service, things that I've been up to. I've continued with fentanyl and drug awareness presentations in the school. I've done further training and threat assessment. I've attended quite a few lockdown, fire, and earthquake drills at all the schools throughout the school year. Continue to meet with students in regards to careers in law enforcement, as well as attending dance, sport events, and other school events and activities. Lauren helped me out with some of this. She's, you guys probably see her a lot on social media. She helps me a lot. So she helped me out with some of this as well. We both attended the NAMS career fair. We both attended the Bida Reality Financial Preparedness at the high school. I helped teacher get Oregon State Police in for some game warden presentations, educating kids on wildlife laws, and Lauren helped with doing some bowling presentations at Echo Shaw. And my favorite is playing basketball and football during lunchtime NAMS. There's some photographs of me in action. There's me and Lauren a couple different times. That's who I'm referring to. She's a great resource too, if you guys ever need anything. Some further training I attended during this time, Child Abuse and Human Trafficking Summit. Further training in artificial intelligence, the school district equity training, sextortion and peer support training as well. That's all I have for you guys tonight. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the support and allowing me in the school.
Sam, questions from the board, Director Truax.
Yeah, could you talk about the new police chief?
Yeah, so with being the SRO, I'm kind of like off in my own world in the schools. He's still pretty new. I've got a ton of time to spend with him. The time I have spent in with him though, he has got an open door policy, which I really appreciate. He's very easy to communicate with. He's local. He spent a career with the Washington County Sheriff's Office, you know, from deputy all the way up to commander, I believe. He's a very approachable human and so far has been nothing but supportive, and you know, he's meeting with patrol one-on-one, everybody figuring out what we need to make ourselves better.
That was one of the things I was looking for, is desire to continue this relationship between Forest Grove Police Department and Forest Grove High School or Forest Grove School District. That's important. It comes from the top down. If he had missed a vote on that, then it would be tough for you to do your job without that kind of support, both from Dr. West and from the chief. So thank you. And let him know that we appreciate the job you're doing and we appreciate the partnership with police department.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and the desire to keep this relationship going is definitely still there. He was gonna be here tonight, but he went home. He wasn't feeling so good, so.
Other questions?
I have one. Well, first commentary on, I enjoyed reading the commentary, the positive feedback that you've been receiving. And I guess my question is, what have you found to be rewarding in your role? Kind of just thoughts into just introspection about what you've seen and any impact that you've been able to make.
Kate said something earlier about like continuing to challenge yourself. This year was at times a challenge for me, but it was awesome. When I look back at this year, I think about how kind of like far I've came just in the year, and how much I learned, and kind of forgot how positive a work environment like the school is and the students, and especially like these last 2 weeks, like the energy in the hallway. I mean, it's like, it's awesome. Like you just feel it. You feel everybody's excited for graduation. They're happy they made it. It's when I'm walking down the halls, I'm like, man, I'm getting a lot more high fives now than I was like 6 months ago. I'm getting a lot of like, what, you know, poundits and what's up and Officer Sam's, how you doing? And so, and I have kids that if my door to my office is open, like they're like constantly coming in. So it can be hard to get work done too, but it's good. It's been a great experience. All the teachers and staff that I've interacted with have been very supportive of me in my position, and they've offered very good guidance when I needed it. And yeah, so I'm very happy and thankful for the opportunity.
Well, thank you for all that you do, and thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments?
I just want to thank Officer Yanis for the service he provides to our district. You've been incredibly responsive this past year, and thoughtful in the way that you engage with students and staff and with the folks in the district office that you're communicating with. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I guess my question is, when you're in the classroom doing presentations for kids, what are the questions they're asking you, either about the presentations themselves, or what are the themes that you're feeling this year that kids are approaching you when they do have conversations?
Well, when I do give like the fentanyl presentation, there is a lot of like concern. There's a lot of questions of concern there. I get approached about a lot of stuff. Kids say some wild stuff to me because I'm a cop, but they're all just very curious. And I think it's like, you know, a lot of these kids and their, how they've grown up and maybe the situations there and aren't always positive interactions with police. And so I have these interactions with them that are positive, and it's weird, you see them become comfortable with me versus the beginning of the school year, so. Specific topics, a lot of curiosity of like what it takes to become a cop. Like the training I've gone through, and a lot of time just saying what's up and see how I'm doing, see how they're doing, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation and thanks for taking the time to.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's a night, it's a clapping night. Usually we don't, yeah, no, it's all good today. Okay. Bond Oversight Committee, Chris Mejia, welcome.
Thanks.
And I know this isn't an update on Nate, but maybe later.
Yeah.
We miss Nate up on the board.
Yeah.
Oh,
Have this report in your packet.
okay, yes.
Yeah.
So, this report. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks. So, my name is Chris Mejia. Lived here most of my life. I've been working on the bond for 14 years now. So this is kind of the culmination. We have about 17.8 million remaining. We spent, or out of our 152.2 million. So we expended $134.4 million. So I'm here to tell you that we spent a lot of money. But I think that what we got out of it was exceptional. I think that the whole team worked together really well. All I've been doing is just telling them, keep going, right? And saying, yes, let's spend that money. It's not that hard to do from that aspect, but overall, I would say that Eileen's team, maintenance, and the contractors have just been great and worked together so efficiently. Obviously, you could tell from the report and in the past, the grants have been exceptional. How much we've gotten out of this bond, I think, is far and beyond what people are asking me from other bond committees to, help with, right, and consult. And I think that we have done an exceptional job, and the things that we've gotten out of it as the public have been excellent. So I guess I don't have a presentation. It's hard to follow, Sam, but if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them. But also, I wanted to say that since most everything is going to be expended in the summer, we decided that we would just probably meet one more time. And I think they're going to ask for an exception for the rest of the year, because we really wouldn't have much to do, that we'd be done. So.
Questions from the board?
I would just like to make a comment that being on the bond committee, in fact, both of the committees there's two bonds that we had on my team, that I just thought the team was exceptional, and I thought that they really listened to what the teachers wanted. And so you can see, like in Cornelius Elementary School, where they put the pre-kinder backpacks and what are the cubbies outside, because they have so much fun stuff that they need to do and creative stuff inside the classroom. The bathrooms in the pre-kinder just has been a godsend. And you can just see all the little pieces where, especially at Cornelius, they really listened and listened to the teachers and the principals, and they also had fun. I thought, my husband was in project engineering, and I thought when we'd have these meetings, how much fun they had together. I mean, because there's always something going on in construction. And so I think it was an exceptional team, and the amount of money that Eileen Klug saved, I don't know, what was it? I don't know.
It's in the neighborhood of 9 million, I think.
I think it's more than that.
Yeah.
I think it's like 25 million.
Oh, and how much you saved?
By
extra
investing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the 20s, yeah.
I think, to me, that's extraordinary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. So anyway, I'm gonna start coughing, so I'm gonna stop. Thank you.
No, thank you.
And Chris, welcome to the district. Thank you. I don't know your whole history with bond
It's okay.
committees. But I have heard about your commitment.
Yeah.
To this process and to the district, so.
Yeah, I'm really committed to spending a lot of money on. No, I know, it was hard because thinking about, oh yeah, you wanna raise people's taxes. They don't exactly like that, but I'm a taxpayer as well, right? So I think that, one of the things that I really appreciated is really the bang for the buck that we got, is outstanding. I mean, and that makes me feel better about that whole process, of 13, 14 years. Yeah. Yeah.
I also think the messaging that you're able to do with the community from your perspective and the district's communication around how bond monies are spent. I was also gonna say the
That's
same
been excellent.
that Eileen, but all of that whole package is what helps people understand this is where the money is going. And so you're a great messenger for that. And again, talk about unseen, volunteer hours, all of these years, because this is multiple times we've seen you present about the bond. And I know it's not just you on that team, but thank you.
Right. Yeah.
For that commitment. And I'm very interested to hear that. I'm glad the word is out that other people are coming to you and asking.
Yeah.
How you do this work.
Yeah. Yes, that was,
Meant to the
yeah.
team, and you as well.
Yeah, definitely, because, I mean, the contractors, they work with other school districts and like, hey, talk to this guy. He's been doing this for as long as we have. So, yeah, I think it's been really good. So,
Yeah, I think that consistency builds a lot of trust
Yeah.
with people and community, and
Yeah.
this is just a perfect example of what happens when all of that happens. So thank you for your longtime dedication to it.
of course, it makes me feel better that we did a good job. I mean, like, okay, yeah, we took a bunch of money from you guys, but we did a really good job with it. So,
Yeah.
I don't feel as guilty.
Yeah, no guilt.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Oh, Director Truax.
Yeah, don't feel guilty at all, because I get a little irritated when people start saying that's my money that you're playing around with. Well, no, it's the district's money.
Right.
It's the people's money.
people.
It's not an individual person. It's not mine, it's ours. And you're the steward, you did a hell of a job with it, and that's to be appreciated. But
Thank
when people start getting possessive about that stuff, then they start saying, if you're gonna spend my money, spend it on my school. And
Right.
that's not how that dog hunts, so.
That makes sense. Yeah, and I think also one of the things that, like Kate mentioned, is they had so much extra funds that they were able to take every punch list from every school and do all of it.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. I mean, like, that never happens. Being in schools for, 25 years, like, it's hard to get a ceiling tile fixed, right? So, but yeah, all that, and all those punch lists from each building is gonna be taken care of, so.
I think you see it too, on every campus, the buildings look really well cared for.
Yes,
And to me, that's really critical that we
Right.
have someone that makes an assessment and says, well, these are the things that need to be done, and the team goes through that. And we're on top of our maintenance, which you look at all the buildings, they look really, really well taken care of,
yeah, I mean, Cornelius is mind blowing, but I mean, each other school got maintenance done, all the maintenance done, all the punch lists done. So I think that they did an exceptional job. Not only maintenance, but the contractors and Eileen's team, so, yeah.
But of the investment that she made that have excess of 25 million is just,
It's amazing,
yeah, I mean, that stewardship is just incredible.
right? And she was very meticulous with it, so, yeah, it's been really good. And it's been really good working with her too.
Yeah, I think the word is growing, and I think another thing as a reminder is board directors, especially because we'll be at the market this summer. And I remember last summer at the market, people would come over, and I think David had put some stuff up about the bond and at different festivals, and not only just to show people what's going on, but then actually thank people. Like, I don't check to see if they voted for the bond. I think they did, but I say, thank you. Are you Forest Grove voter? Thank you for supporting this bond. And I think people kind of take some ownership, to your point, Pete, when we can remind people your vote actually did allow this district to pursue these goals, and here's what they are. So that conversation doesn't stop just because we're nearing, quote, the end. I think it is a conversation we continue so we can help people connect that their choices in that is, very proactive for the future of this district. And I think we'll continue.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
District Equity Committee, welcome, Dr. Suzanne West, who we already know, and Angeles Cornelia City Councilor. But here tonight, has to be a equity team member.
Yes, thank you. So this is our year-end report for the District Equity Committee. It's a little unusual to sit over here on this side of the table. But since this is our first year, a district of our size wasn't required to start this statewide requirement until this year. But since this is our first year, I thought it would be a really good opportunity to share with the school board what the District Equity Committee has worked on. And I asked Angeles to join us so that we had the perspective of somebody who's been a part of the work of this committee. And I'm excited for you to hear what she has to share. First, though, I'm going to orient us to what the committee is, and then I'm going to pitch it over to Angeles to share her experience. So we start with this idea of equity, and for us, equity has been embedded within our strategic plan since, well, 2023, when that plan was developed. So it's a part of the work that we discuss often. It grounds us in where we do our investments, where we invest our time. We look at our data with an equity lens to find those areas where we need to improve and make sure that every student has the best educational experience that they possibly can. So I start here because that is our foundation. It's where we're grounded. In terms of the legislation itself, this is just an overview of what we're doing and why. So this committee is the result of SB 732. That was legislation passed in 2021. As I said, districts our size did not need to start this work until this year. For my part, I'm super excited about this work. I think that the committee this year has had a great start. We didn't get as far as we wanted to, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we're off and running, and I'm really excited about the work of this team. What the responsibilities are outlined here. Just to highlight a couple of things, the purpose of the committee is to advise the superintendent about educational equity impacts of policy decisions. So the legislation is written specifically around how do we use policy to impact outcomes for students. There is other work that this committee may be involved in around equity down the road, but to get started, we really have taken a look at that policy impact, and we've done that through the examination of different data sets, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. The Equity Committee also has the opportunity to nominate one of their members to participate on the Budget Committee. We did that this year. Nicholas Hafes was nominated, and he did serve in that capacity for this year. And so we'll keep that going. I think that's an excellent addition to this piece of legislation, and in making sure that there is a bridge between the work of the District Equity Committee and the work of the Budget Committee.
All right, so I get to talk about this year's year one progress. So first, we really focused on that data and discovery. So we reviewed that district-wide information related to both student discipline, coursework access, attendance, and student opportunity. And our goal wasn't really just to identify gaps, but really to understand what the student experience, how that differed across different groups, and what those questions really raised for us. And so when we then moved into stage 2, which was that policy and practice review. So rather than really reviewing policies in isolation, we really examined how students actually experience our systems and whether district policies are there to support the outcomes we want for those students. And really, as we dug into that work, it became clear that there were several policies that warranted us to take a closer review. And so we formed a policy subcommittee that included students because we really felt that it was essential that the people that were going to be most impacted by these policies actually had a voice in really shaping what those look like. And so then finally, we moved into stage 3 where we participated in the budget engagement process. So applying that equity lens and really into those discussions about those budget reductions, because we wanted to ensure that those decisions considered how they were going to impact the students. And so at the beginning of the year, we created an ambitious work plan, and looking back, I think that ambition was really valuable because it pushed us to really examine multiple systems that influence that student outcome. And so along the way, we realized that meaningful equity work really takes time. And so often the more we learned, the more questions we had, and we found ourselves really spending additional time understanding those root causes and reviewing those policies through those real world scenarios and listening to those students' perspectives before just trying to come up with solutions. And so while we did not complete every item that we had on our original timeline, we really built a strong progress and developed recommendations, and I think really created a strong foundation for the future work. And so one of the first areas the committee examined was that student discipline. And as we review that district data, we really noticed some concerning patterns. So we noticed that Hispanic students, Native Hawaiian students, and students receiving special education services were actually being suspended at higher rates than their peers, particularly in the middle school years. And we found that Hispanic students spent more total days out of school due to suspension than any other group, and students receiving special education services experienced some of the highest suspension rates in the district. So for nearly every 30 suspensions of 100, 30 of them were sped students. So that is a large number, 30%. So while the numbers showed us where the differences existed, right, they don't tell us why. And so the committee really spent a long time having really discussing those factors and contributing to and thinking about what really is contributing to these outcomes. And so we talked about how students experience the transition of middle school, you know, whether students feel connected and supported in the school system, and how families are also engaging in this process. And whether that cultural and language differences can sometimes be misunderstood, leading to some of these causes. And so rather than really focusing on what the students did wrong, we really wanted to focus on what the system might do differently to actually support them. And so those conversations led us to that shared belief that discipline should really be focused on helping our students, right, learn from those mistakes and stay connected to school and spend as much time in the classroom. Because ultimately we're penalizing them if we're excluding them from the classroom. And then when they're coming back, they have to catch up, and there's just, you're creating this cycle. And so we want responses that really address those root causes and the cause of the behavior, and really repair that harm that occurs when a student goes through the disciplinary system, and then also making sure that our students feel like they can move forward successfully. So policy revision. So after identifying those patterns in the discipline data, we really focused our shift more to district policy. And one of the most valuable approaches we used was really that backward mapping. So rather than starting with that policy language, we started with real world student scenarios and asked ourselves a simple question, which is, if the policy is followed as it's actually written, what would the student actually experience? And so from that process, it really helped us identify places where that policy language was unclear or subjective, or really could just lead to inconsistent outcomes for those students. So for example, in our dress code and grooming policy, we found language that could be interpreted differently depending on the situation or the person enforcing it. And then we also discussed how some wording could unintentionally confuse a student's choice of dress for their access to resources, or to fail to account for their cultural differences. And so in our student discipline policy, we also found a heavy reliance on subjective categories that and adult discretion. And so with that limited guidance around restorative practice, student voice, or addressing the root causes of the behavior. So across all of these discussions, I think a common theme really emerged, and that we want our policies to support a more proactive approach. So when challenges arise, or our goal should not be to just understand what happened, to really repair the harm when it's needed, and to preserve that student dignity and keep students engaged in learning whenever possible. And so the final area we examined was the student access to opportunities, pathways, and advanced learning experiences. So one of the most encouraging findings was that our dual credit participation, so approximately 60% of students that are enrolled in dual credit courses, and that participation was actually consistent across all of our student groups. So that was a significant strength that we identified. But as we looked more broadly at participant data, we also noticed some gaps. So for example, English learners and male students were underrepresented in advanced placement courses, which really raised that important question about access, representation, and whether students see these opportunities as pathways that are actually available to them. And so our conversations extended beyond advanced coursework to also include CTE education pathways, performing arts, programs, and leadership opportunities, as well as extracurricular activities. So we wanted to really better understand how students learn about these opportunities and what might actually influence them to want to participate in these activities. And so several recommendations emerged from those discussions. We talked about the importance of building awareness to those CTE courses, and also performing arts, and maybe even other pathways a lot earlier. So, maybe beginning before high school, so students actually have more time to explore their interests and think about what their plan is for the future. And so we also discussed intentional recruitment and outreach, particularly for English learners, migrant students, students receiving special education services, and other groups whose participation might not reflect the diversity of our student population. And so this includes not only coursework, but also those leadership opportunities like ASB and other extracurricular activities. So we also identified that we need a clear forecasting for materials that explicitly outline those available pathways and opportunities, really making it easier for the students and families to both understand those options and engage with them in a lot earlier. And so throughout these discussions, our focus really was about ensuring that every student had a place that could see themselves and has a meaningful access to opportunities that really align with their interests, their goals, and their strengths. And so this slide captures the process that really guided much of our work this year. So we started with the student experience. So again, rather than beginning with just what the policies or procedures were, we really asked what students actually experience when they encounter a challenge, and whether that's a dress code concern, a disciplinary situation, or access to just any opportunity. So from there, we examined where friction exists within our policies and practice, and we looked at places where that language could be unclear, where decisions really rely heavily on that individual interpretation, or where students may experience unintended consequences like expulsion from instruction or barriers to participation. And finally, we asked what changes could better align our policies with the outcomes we want for our students. So our goal wasn't just simply to sit here and rewrite policies, but to really create systems that are more proactive, supportive, and consistent, while also preserving the student dignity and keeping students connected to learning. And the framework really helped us move beyond identifying problems towards developing recommendations that really address the underlying systems that ultimately shape that student experience. And so I'd like to close my portion really by highlighting what I believe is one of the greatest strengths of this committee, and that was the authentic youth voice that was present throughout the entire process. So our student members didn't just attend these meetings, they really challenged our assumptions and asked really important questions. They participated in that policy review, and they also helped us understand how the decisions are experienced by them, right, the students. And so one example comes from Elizabeth, one of our student committee members, who really shared that she felt like she was able to work alongside students and it felt good to have her voice heard. And I think that experience really reflects exactly what the committee is intended to accomplish, right? So some of our strongest conversations really happened because students were present at the table. So their perspectives really helped us move beyond this theory and focus on those lived experiences. And so as we move into year 2, I think continuing to really center that student voice is going to remain essential to ensuring our work is really grounded in the realities that our students are experiencing every day.
So looking ahead to year 2, thank you for all of that. We are looking to monitor the work that we've implemented. We're still in the final stages of implementing the policy changes that Angeles referenced, and the policy committee has seen those. Some of those are in your packet for a first read tonight. So we're going to implement those, share them out across the district, and start to work on what the intent is behind those policies, and so monitor that implementation. But we also want to expand our work. I think as you said, we had an ambitious work plan. We didn't get through all of it. That's okay. that we didn't get through all of it. One, it leaves us some things to do in year two, but it also allowed us to go deeper in some areas, and really start to understand what does it look like to untangle equity in our school district and do this work in a way that is meaningful for us as the individuals who are engaged in the conversations, but more so in a way that is meaningful for the organization. I have participated, unfortunately, in different committees that do a lot of talking. And this is a committee that we really want to do the work and to find the areas where structurally as a system, we can do better by our students. So the core objective is the elimination of demographic predictability. That is what our ultimate goal is. And unfortunately, as a school district right now, in too many of our metrics, you can predict the outcome for students based on the demographic category that they identify with. And it'll take many years to get to the point that we want to get to, but that is one of the ultimate goals of this committee. And so we intend to sustain this work that we've started, not just because it's the law in the state of Oregon, but also because it's really good work. This is a committee and a group of people that I feel really excited to work alongside. Everyone involved in this work cares deeply about outcomes for kids, and they're asking the hard questions that we need to be asking to do better. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Actually, if I may, I would just like to say that this is my first time getting to work with Dr. West. I mean, besides emails and like MOUs or things like that we've built through Centro, but my first time going into that meeting, I'm not gonna lie, and I said this to the entire group that first day, I went in thinking like, all right, here's another like DEI meeting that wants to act, that says they want to do something, but like, what is actually going to get done, right? Because how many times do we see that where we want real change, but it just feels like you're running in circles? And I was just blown away by Dr. West and the way that she framed the meetings, the conversations she brought, the data she brought to us, and seeing real change happening for our students. And so for that, I really commend you for taking the charge and making sure that, you know, this isn't just another meeting to have because the state mandated it. It's because you actually deeply care about our students and want to make sure that we see change. So I really appreciate everybody on that committee.
As do I. Thank you.
Comments and questions from the board?
No questions, just comments of thank you for implementing the changes that need to be made. I reviewed the policies of taking out the hurtful language and the targeting language, and I think it's important work, and I'm excited for what you'll do in year two. But I think everything that's been changing and all the changes that have been moving towards a positive direction. I think you guys did great.
Catch them being good. That was something I tried to do when I was teaching. Very often teachers, not very often, there are some teachers, unfortunately, that looked on, I won't say looked on the dark side, but looked on the less than sunny side of behavior. And that student that was marching to the beat of a different drummer, sometimes unjustifiably got dinged for that. But in the course of all of that, they do things that pique other people's curiosity. And that's part of the learning. And so I tried very hard. I'd like to think I tried hard in catching the kid doing a good thing so that I could, you know, put the staple the gold star to his forehead. That was something that I firmly believed in, and got me sideways with some of my colleagues more than once. But that's what I'm hearing when I hear all of this. That we're trying to get rid of the old mores and the old saws and the old philosophies, bring in something with a little bit of vitality to it. And again, catching the kid doing a good thing. Thank you.
I like the depth that you guys are working on. I think that is so critical. And I really look forward to seeing what happens next because, yeah, I think that's so critical. Thank you.
Yes, I have a quick question. So you do state to eliminate demographic predictability. Could you elaborate a little bit more with that? What you're referring to that? Is that including like state testing results or what exactly does that mean?
Yes, and everything you didn't say. So an example, I will go backwards here just a little bit. So these are just a little bit of the exclusionary data that we looked at, these two graphs here. But even without pulling the data and creating the graphs related to discipline data, we could have told you, we could have predicted that students who are receiving special education services are likely being excluded from school at higher rates than other students, their non-special education peers, for example. Even without looking at these data, we could have predicted that students of color are being excluded from school at rates that are higher than their white peers. And when we talk about these data, we're talking about proportionality. So in a district like ours, Latino students are the majority of students in our school system. So if you're just looking at raw numbers, you would expect more students who identify as Latino to be receiving discipline. That's really not the question. The question is it proportional? So based on the proportion of students who identify as Latino in our school district, are they being excluded from school, disciplined for conduct and behavior at a rate that is proportional to their representation? And what we found is that they are overrepresented in our discipline data. And we could have predicted that. That is consistent not just for Forest Grove, it's consistent across the state of Oregon, it's consistent across the nation. So the ultimate measure of whether your equity efforts are working or not is that you eliminate the ability to predict based on how students identify or the specific student group that they are assigned to, what the outcome is for their educational experience. Does that answer your question?
That does, yes. I just wanted to understand that a little bit more. Okay, thank you.
I have a question about the similar theme, and I'm just gonna put it into a little word salad, and both of you know me well enough to be able to tease out what I'm saying, but the mention of kids going into the CET programs, how many kids when we're looking at who's taking honors, when we look at our valedictorian standing up there, you know, and we notice those types of things are some of the things you're referencing, right? That I guess a couple years ago, I had a conversation with a couple leadership students at the high school, women of color, who they were into beginning their junior year, I believe, and had discovered in their junior year, they were in AP and honors classes, but had discovered that they realized there were a couple classes they should have been taking their freshman year to get them to a higher rung on a ladder that they now wish to be. So kind of, they were realizing they were able to identify where in their path that they could have received help and advice from whatever it is, you know, the system, getting them where they needed to be. So my question is the methodology around looking at policy, not only policy change, and you're using student voice, but is there data being collected from those students who have an awareness enough to be able to identify maybe in middle school why they didn't sign up for the leadership, or in third grade why they suddenly aren't loving math? I mean, is there that type of data that we collect from the students to help us know from their perspective where the barriers might be? I know as a system and as administrators, we can also identify plenty of places where that is, but how does that all work?
Okay, I'm gonna tease that apart a little
I
bit.
knew that.
Yeah, so I want to start by addressing what we refer to as funds of knowledge. And that's an expression in education that I think has become pretty widely known over the last couple of decades. And what it means is that each one of us enters into the school system from our very first day of school with a certain fund of knowledge that we inherit from our families. And our school system is designed around the white middle class funds of knowledge that were very typical in our country for a long period of time and still are in many parts of the country. If you are from a different culture, a different nation, a different family heritage, you may not have that same fund of knowledge. So you enter into our school system not knowing that a leadership class in middle school could prepare you for the leadership opportunities that you want in high school, or not knowing that starting around middle school, accessing honors classes is a way to set yourself up to succeed in high school and take that AP calculus class that you're interested in. So what I hear in your question, and I'm starting with funds of knowledge because I think the education actually starts, and I'll refer back to what Angeles said here, that we need to start by educating families and kids at a really early point in what their opportunities are. So what does it look like to navigate our education system? What does it look like to access the opportunities that you want for students as they matriculate through a US typical education system? And I think we can do a better job of that. As being relatively new to the district, I'm still learning about some of our communication channels and what it looks like to support families as their students move through our system. But based on what I've seen, I think a lot of people work really hard at this, and it's an area of opportunity for us. So that's one answer to your question. I think the other part of your question around what data do we collect? There's two different types of data that help to inform your question that right now we don't have a good way of pulling together and synthesizing to do the kind of predictive analysis that I think you're suggesting. One is we are starting to identify at what point in a child's education trajectory do we need to intervene to set them on a different trajectory. So we're building our data systems, we're building our data literacy, which is important so that we can start to answer some of these questions. We have a talented data analyst working with us now who is helping us collate data, synthesize data, and turn data into information. It's going to take a little while to build out those systems, but we're starting that work. The other way that we collect data is through the SEL surveys that we've shared with the board in the past. And so we ask students directly. And our principals and our teachers are getting better at using those data to figure out which of our students and which of our students' families can we intervene with. And I say getting better at because I think there are some educators who are doing a phenomenal job with this. And this is also still new to our district. So just like all things new, it takes a while to develop the muscle around how to use all of these things together to really offer the best educational experience for our kids. That was kind of a long answer to your question. Is that?
Loved it. Yep.
Okay.
Love the long answers from Dr. West. Thank you. No, that's great. That's a great
I
explanation.
have another question. So do you see where you will need to help the counselors communicate with these areas where some kids are unrepresented in certain subjects, and that to be aware that we really need to be reaching out to all the kids, not just to some of the kids, because you know, we all have our biases and our assumptions, but I think that has to be addressed also on how our counselors are communicating to our students.
May I share the observation that you made when we were talking? Okay, at the very last equity committee meeting, we were partnered for one of our activities. And Angeles, as we were looking at these data right here, plus some others, made the observation that 9th grade students are largely underrepresented in a lot of these advanced opportunities. And the question is, what are we doing in middle school to engage them and help them understand that there is a pathway they can start from the very first day of high school that will help them achieve whatever their goals are in high school. So the counselors at the high school, I think, have an important role to play here. And these data and the observation of the committee have been shared with the high school principal, and we'll have some follow-up with that. But I think your observation that it actually starts earlier than that is really important. There's some work that we need to do at the middle level as well.
Well, I know you're saying engaging families, what is kind of the plan for engaging parents? If, you know, if we're trying to target them at a young age and younger, you know, get them educated or informed with what they have for their education or what portion of school district has for them. How do you see that?
I don't have an answer to that right now. It is something we absolutely need to work on.
Yeah, because I do see like interpreters available sometimes for like the Spanish speaking community and they're just not here. So how do we engage them?
This is not like an answer, but this is just something I've thought a lot about too with my work at Centro and our youth. And because sometimes I find myself giving parents like a school system 101, right? Like I think things have come a long way, but I remember back when I first started my career helping them get vaccinated, right? Because this is before we had clinics and the schools that were able to do that. And so all these barriers, everything from entering, getting your vaccines to addressing, because a lot of the parents I work with, they may not have finished the school system themselves, and that's in Mexico or wherever they came from, and that's very different. When you come here, we have a completely different school system, right? And so I think, like, to me, I always think of a school system 101, like how do you get through, what does it look like? What does elementary school look like? What does middle school look like? Everything from what grades, right? Because even like in other countries, it might be middle school, what we call middle school and high school, like prepa, but that all looks differently. And so I think having an understanding of just assuming that you know nothing and going in and giving a detailed presentation or information with everything from if you're getting your student enrolled, these are all the things you need to do. And also this is what the trajectory might look like in elementary school, this is what they might cover. These are the standards or the basics that they're learning. In middle school, this is what we're trying to teach them. This is what we're trying to get to. Same thing in high school. This is what that looks like. And then those are also, then there's things called AP and CTEs, right? So it's like everything you could think of, assume people know nothing and give it all to them, because even if you know something, you're gonna continuously be learning something new. And I found that for myself when parents come and ask me questions, and so I'm like, oh, I thought I knew this, but let me figure this out. And that's where those relationships are really helpful, because you can reach out to people in those school districts and get that information. But sometimes parents don't always, especially if they're new and just immigrated here, having those connections or those language barriers, or even just the comfortability of being like, can I ask you this? Because it feels like a dumb question to me and I don't want to feel wrong or whatever that may look like. So I think just having something along those lines is kind of what I always have like envisioned. How can we make something like that happen? And I know you all do that in like a small scale for certain things, but yeah.
Well, I know that kind of comes back to your counselor. You know, is it the counselor that's making this contact or the parent, you know, the students, the parents who's engaging, who's starting what, so.
Yeah, and there's so many staff, right? That's the other thing too. There's so many different staff in a school, and understanding like, okay, for attendance, there's this person, and for this, there's person, right? And so I think those are other barriers too, of just like even understanding who are the different individuals in those school systems and who do you go to ask for support.
I think kind of bouncing off of that too, of just not understanding their school system, the importance of attendance. I think that's a big one that's lost. I saw it a lot growing up with my peers and our Latin community, that attendance wasn't really something that was valued, and kind of helping educate our community that attendance is a big part of being successful in school. And so exploring more ways of getting that information out and reaching our community where they are is a really great one.
One last comment is, I'm always a little surprised. At graduation, they asked students that are first generation graduating from high school. And the number was pretty high, I thought, at graduation. And so I think of how could we reach out to those students' parents to help them sooner? Because, you know, they've come from another country, just like what you were saying, and things are very different. But they don't even know the question to ask, you know, and that's that's really hard, and how can you have like a community meeting or, to help them, do what you're doing, because they don't know what to ask. It's so different. And it's evolving too. That's the other thing, it's evolving.
All right, any other additional thoughts or questions? Thank you so much for the conversation and the time. Thank you, Angeles, coming over. And Dr. West for the presentation. At this time, we are actually gonna move to a recess.
To adjust for the budget.
Yes, because we're gonna adjust for a budget hearing that we need to hold for 5 minutes. So we're gonna take a short recess to get ready for that. We'll come back to, we have to,
May I?
yes, you may.
So we're gonna recess the business meeting. We're not adjourning. So that we can transition to the budget hearing. We need to hold a budget hearing for a minimum number of minutes. Which we will do, and then we will we'll adjourn the budget meeting, and then we'll resume the business meeting.
Yes, and I believe the budget hearing is a total of five, minimum of 5 minutes. Correct. However,
For some reason, I don't, this is such an evil from that, right? You go up and it's for May 26th. Went through all three of them.
I've just been using.
You've been using it.
This and then.
Okay, I'll use that,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Because
Because
it's.
it's,
You want me to get- If you don't mind, that'd be great. Because the first meeting in there.
Oh, I have it. He gave it to me. It was good. Oh, no, sorry, it's on
all right.
so anyway, so did you?
Hey, we gotta gavel this and then we gotta.
Yeah, you're gonna gavel the budget.
So this.
I'm gonna gavel. Okay, and when they make it. We can stack a couple.
You want me to find you?
All right. The June 9th, 2026 Forest Grove School District Budget Committee hearing is called to order at 7:49 PM. We will now take 5 minutes to hear public comment from any public who is willing, and then we will adjourn the Budget Committee hearing. 54 PM. And we will resume our business meeting at 7:54 PM. And we are moving on to action items. Thank you, everybody. First action item is school resource officer SRO contract with Dr. West.
Yes, thank you. Last board meeting, we brought forward the SRO contract for a first read, I believe, if I remember correctly. This is a continuation of the contract that we have had with the Forest Grove Police Department for a number of years. One thing that I do want to highlight in the contract for this year, it is just for one SRO. The board has had some conversation in the past about expanding that to 2 SROs. We do have the option to do that when the Forest Grove Police Department has the capacity to hire an additional SRO. So the reason for the single SRO there is just allowing the Forest Grove Police Department the time they need to do the hiring and build the capacity for a second. If we are able to, in collaboration with the Forest Grove Police Department, hire a second SRO, we will bring forward an amendment to the contract for the school board to take a look at.
Questions?
I move to approve the school resource officer contract with Forest Grove Police Department as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, special contracted services with Dr. Schmidt.
Hi, good evening, board. I'm here to present, Student Services requesting approval of a contract services for special school placement for a student with individual education program needs at Serendipity Center in the amount of up to $117,077.78 for the 26-27 school year.
Questions?
So the amount is, so it rates in the amount up to, so we don't have a.
That it wouldn't exceed 117. The reason why we say up to is if something were to happen during the school year and we didn't need to have that full amount, we would just be up to that. We wouldn't exceed that amount.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
I move to approve the contracted services for a special school placement at Serendipity Center in the amount of up to $117,077.78 for the 26-27 school year.
I'll second it, even though it's 78 cents. I don't get that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. And youth contract agreement?
Yeah, Youth Contact, I have a little information for those of you who may not know. Youth Contact is a nonprofit organization that provides therapeutic services for students at our high school and Tuolumne Plains. On the left-hand side, you see the grant funding and clinical focus. The focus is what they call a student assistance program. It's partially funded by a grant through Washington County and the alcohol and drug use prevention. They provide upstream prevention through family therapy and individual therapy. And they prioritize individual and family therapy as the highest need at the high school and Tuolumne Plains. And then there's been a bit of a program evolution. They used to run a peer mediator program, and we've switched that now to what we call Sources of Strength, which is a peer-led suicide prevention and wellness program. So just some of the things that that position fulfills at the high school in Tuolumne Plains. We've had a longstanding relationship with Youth Contact over the years. This contract represents an increase of 3% that reflects a payroll increase for the next school year. So the amount is $69,218 and 80 cents.
Questions?
I do have a question. I was wondering, kind of these services that are offered, are these only in-person services? Like, I don't know, but like, would these be in-person services and like any of the things that programs that they offer also Zoom option or?
You know, I don't know. This is an actual full-time equivalent position at our high school, and she also goes to Tuolumne Plains, so probably mostly in person for students. I don't know if she offers virtual for families. I would assume so. A lot of the therapeutic services are, but I can't say for sure.
Other questions?
Is it a bilingual staff member?
I believe that she is bilingual. I don't know for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Not seeing any more questions?
Madam Chair, I move to approve an increase in contract services from Youth Contact for 1.0 FTE for the 25-26 school year from $67,202 to $69,218.80 for the 2026-27 school year.
Second. Any discussion?
Yes, there is. I go back a number of years in this school system. And in a couple of those years, I did work with Youth Contact as a summer school teacher and with a group that was called the Private Industry Council. They sort of sent teachers and special ed people into the school district to help with summer school programs. And the Youth Contact people were most helpful, most energetic, and most knowledgeable about the students and the work they had to do. So I would support this. I do support it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, Kim. Flashlight 360 contract renewal with Leanna Kelly, our secondary education coordinator.
Hello. So I first have for you a contract renewal, Flashlight 360, which you have seen some data on this year. It's our progress monitoring tool for students receiving ELD services.
Questions?
I move to approve the renewal of the annual contract for Flashlight 360 for $79,600.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you. And Panorama contract?
Panorama is a tool that we have been using in our district for a number of years, and we are looking to renew our contract with them. We use it for our multi-tiered systems of support and our SEL surveys and climate and culture surveys.
Any questions?
Move to approve the renewal of the annual contract for Panorama in the amount of $70,600.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you. And the Amplify curriculum and M-class assessments with Magda Romero.
I get to be Magda today
Oh.
also. Yeah, she wasn't able to make it. She's with her family. As part of our interim assessments, we have extended for 1 year to continue to use M-Class and Lectura as our progress monitoring for K-6. And with that comes some intervention tools. So we are looking to approve that for this following school year.
Questions?
How exactly are these reading assessments?
How are they done?
Yeah.
So they are administered in grades K through 6. There are a number of assessments that looks different by each grade level, and it's in English and in Spanish. And so it has phonetics and decoding skills, comprehension and vocabulary, and fluency skills as well. And it's done 3 times a year, all the way throughout.
And then probably a dumb question. So reading assessments, are these done with a teacher with an A, or are these done with a system?
Yeah, some of it is done on a computer and some of it is one-on-one with a teacher or an instructional assistant.
Okay, I have no questions, but I should ask later.
You can ask now.
Oh, I guess I'm just curious as to like how, I recently received a letter from students worried about kind of our move towards more electronics and less in-person time. And have you wondering, and I'm curious as to how these assessments are done and how effective they would be in person versus the online tools that I know can be effective, but not always.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it came up with our assessment committee that has been meeting to discuss what our interim assessments will be, because that is a concern. And for the younger kids, a lot of it is done one-to-one with a person. And then as students get older and they're more of the comprehension questions, those are done in a computer adaptive way so that they are answering questions and the system is evaluating what level they are. Yeah. And we'll have data next.
Is the Boost Reading an intervention program?
Yes, it is.
Did we get that last fall? Was that first year?
I'm not sure how long we've had that.
No, it's been at least 2 years since it's been here since I've started.
Yeah.
And is it effective?
Yeah, our staff really like it and they feel that it is very effective. Our reading specialists appreciate it a lot.
See no more questions?
I move to approve the 2026-2027 renewal of the K through 6 amplified reading assessment suite and K through 6 amplified boost reading not to exceed $164,880.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Before we do this,
Yeah.
may I? This is a little unusual, but we do have one of our fiscal supervisors here in the audience. So we're about to have an action item related to the adoption of the budget. If we misspeak in any way, will you please jump in and still try? Okay, thank you. The language has to be very precise, so that's why I'm asking for an assist here if we need it.
All right, board, so this budget adoption will happen in a couple different phases. I'm looking for a couple different motions from the board.
Do you want the first one here? Or do we have a discussion of one?
We need a motion on the floor and a second.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the resolution to adopt the budget and appropriations for the fiscal year 2026-27 in the total of amount of $180,451,924.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All right, I mean, I would like to just really compliment everyone in this district for the work, the community, FGEA feedback, community feedback, the work that Dr. West and her team has done, everything that has happened to work with the budget committee, I think to really dig deep in the budget and understand the line by line items. I think we did a really good job of trying to reach out in multiple ways to have people involved and give feedback, and we received feedback, and I believe everybody has done a really good job. I just want to put that out there before this vote. I think these are difficult times and we're making very hard but necessary decisions. And I just appreciate the collaborative work on everybody's behalf. And with that, I think we'll do a roll call vote on this. Alma Lozano,
Yes.
Brisa Franco,
Yes.
Kate Grandeski,
Yes.
Pete Truax.
Yep.
And Christy Cocky is a yes.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the resolution to impose ad valorem taxes on the assessed value of all taxable property within the district for tax year 2026-2027. One at the rate of $4.91.149142. Try that again. At the rate of $4.9142 per thousand of assessed value for permanent rate tax. And in the amount of $14,130,480 for debt service on general obligation bonds.
I seconded.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right, motion passes.
Madam Chair, I move to categorize taxes for the purpose of Article 11, Section 11B One, subject to the education limitation, the permanent rate tax of $4.9142 per thousand. And excluded from limitation, the general obligation bond debt service of $14,130,480.
Second. Discussion.
Yeah, I would just like to say, I think that the magic figure that we run for school districts is $5 per thousand. We go above that, we're in trouble. What is exempted from that $5 limit of the overall 1.5% limit on property taxes is the bond indebtedness, the bond debt service. So that is beyond, that would put it beyond the $5, but that for some reason doesn't count, so. And all of this indicates that, again, this is speaking editorially here, but that's not enough. We shot ourselves in the foot in the 1990s when we put the 1.5% limitation on property taxes.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. And a nod from the seats. All right, thank you, everybody. We're gonna move on to superintendent contract. That's with me. I really appreciate the work done by Dr. West and the input from the board and also assistance from our district attorney in putting together this contract moving forward for the rollover year with a few minor adjustments that were necessary to make. And I'm just thank you for the work on that.
May I?
Yes, Dr.
I
West.
just want to again thank the board for the support that you've shown over the last year. It is tremendous to do this work with people who are leaning in the right ways and caring about kids and asking questions that help us be better. So thank you for all of the ways that you have continued to work with us throughout this year. Really appreciate it. And thank you for the conversation related to extending my contract. I really appreciate that.
And with that, I enthusiastically move to approve the amendments to the superintendent current employment contract as presented and extended until June 30th, 2029.
And I second it enthusiastically.
Discussion?
And I'll enthusiastically discuss it if you want, or I'll keep my mouth.
Is that if you want a rhetorical question or? Okay,
Yeah,
go
it is,
ahead.
it is. No, I'm done.
Oh, okay. All right.
Enthusiastically done.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. We're gonna move on to first read policy revisions. Dr. West, it's in the packet. Spoken a little bit about it tonight.
Nothing more to say.
Okay, so board, we are gonna take a minute and talk about the school board calendar, which is under first read item 2. We have both of those calendars in front of us. I wanted to have a tiny bit of time for each director to talk a little bit about the calendar. I think I'm gonna go down the line. We've got 2 options. One is draft 2, which is very similar to a calendar that we have had this year. Draft 1 looks at some changes in potential meetings during the month, being one work business meeting with a second possible meeting that's maybe shorter, just board only. We're talking about some flexible options about what that could look like. I think we're trying to reach a happy medium of using time wisely, removing barriers for people in their work-life balance. And also, like I've mentioned multiple times, this is the only time during the month that the board actually gets to speak to each other and see each other and have a conversation. So we do need that time. How we structure that time on the calendar, I think is what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. So I think what I'd like to do is start with Director Franco maybe, and if you're comfortable talking about your calendar preference, it doesn't have to be 1 or 2, it can be hybrid, but this gives us a starting point.
Mind you, I've only been here not even a year yet. So I'm still somewhat adjusting to the schedule and kind of the nuts and bolts of how we work. I like the flexibility that draft one offers in the sense of if we don't need to meet during up that time. My only worry is there are things that happen outside of our school board meetings that impact our community and impact our students, and I feel like we were to meet less frequently than we already do, we wouldn't have the opportunity to address those or kind of be able to have discussion in which I feel like we've had rich discussion before in response to students protesting or just things happening in our community. I feel like we lose out on that conversation. Another sort of can't find the word in English. Worry I have is starting at 4:30 p.m. I mean, I personally have always found it difficult for a 5:30 p.m., not only for me to make it, but also people don't always work in the area. Some people travel from Portland, some people work in Beaverton and Tiger. And so although we haven't seen much kind of community engagement more than I wish we had more, but I feel like moving a 4:30 p.m. start time would make it difficult and create a barrier in which it might not be a barrier for many people. I fear that it would add even more of a barrier for people if we had an earlier start time. Seeing as most typical work days end at 5 p.m. that only allows 30 minutes for travel. And so those were kind of my worries in draft one. But what I did like about draft one was having that option of, yes, again, if we don't necessarily need to meet for a board meeting officially the way we do now, of maybe having the option of meeting on the Thursdays that we used to have, of having those informal kind of, what should we talk about, or what should we have discussions over? If that can be woven in there, it doesn't necessarily need to be a business session per se, but maybe just the sessions we've had on Thursdays. Those are kind of my thoughts and my worries regarding accessibility and what the changes are for the schedule. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
Well, that's what we're gonna hear. Okay, Director Truax.
Two things. One, we need to be as flexible as possible to meet the needs of the students in the district. And at the same time, we also need to be as flexible as possible to meet the needs of the patrons of the district, parents and other aides into the system. And I agree with Director Franco in that 4:30 doesn't sit well with me. It's a half hour before a lot of work days end. And granted, the owl helps, but you're not there. Some people may think they're there, but they're not. I would much rather go with a hybrid where we have work sessions / business sessions, but everything starts at as close to 5:30 as possible. In the best of all possible worlds, well, not in best. And what's worked for me is I'm not real fond of 5:30 either. I'd much rather start, say, at 6 or 6:30. But I get sideways with a number of people on the board and elsewhere when I make that selection, so I'm not gonna die on that hill. But I do like the idea of being as flexible, having work / business sessions, and then moving to 5:30. I think to have a 4:30 meeting is to open ourselves up to you're meeting at a time that I can't be there and I can't look on Zoom because I have a job to do. So you're gonna accomplish something while I'm not present. And I think that's something we've been fighting all year.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to be here, but I'll add my 2 cents. We used to start meetings at 6. And I always liked 6 better than 5:30 because I felt like, people could get home and feed their kids a little bit or get something organized a little bit before they have to dash out the door. So I think either 5:30 or 6. I think 4:30 is just too early and, for all the reasons that were already spoken. So that's what I think.
Yeah, well, my opinion might be a little bit different. I don't know if there's any possible way that we can bring this up, I don't know, to as a discussion or possibility with the community to see what their thoughts are regarding time. I think if they're joining virtually and aren't necessarily present, doesn't, I mean, it's recorded. So, I mean, I guess just kind of bring it up and see if it's a possibility and see what the community thinks. I mean, we are here because the community decided us to be here, so I think if we could ask somehow, we'll get their opinion.
I appreciate that question. May I ask a follow-up question? Typically, and I'll look to Enrique to help us here. The live session, we might have 2, maybe 3 people watching. And our
At
audience.
this time.
At this time, so, and our audience is pretty light. Now, we get additional views of the recording later on. But for the live session, it's, unless there is a hot topic, we don't have many live viewers.
Can we reshuffle, like if there is a hot topic to where we can start it perhaps a little later, be flexible in that, be able to start the meetings at 4:30 if we're not having a lot of people online.
I think there's a lot of flexibility here. The follow-up question I was gonna ask is, I'm not sure who to survey since so few people engage with the board meeting.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that we've talked about, with how can we get community members and family to be more engaging? And I feel like until we can workshop the engagement and getting more people to be participating and kind of be involved, I feel like moving the time to an earlier time would kind of be moving a step way before we even started our first step, if that makes any sense.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of conversation with the public. I mean, they can give their public opinion, but the conversation is between us, not the public. That's kind of my thought.
That's fair. No, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I wanted to.
I think like a
kind of
town
give
hall or
that
something where we
engagement.
can actually engage with the public would be a better impact or, versus the meetings. I think we should be flexible in whatever the board, this current board, we are volunteers, so whatever the best fits the needs of the board members would be great.
I'm gonna say 2 things. So one, the bucket of engagement, I feel like there's a bigger conversation that we'll have probably at the retreat around. I think maybe I'm gonna give up the idea that we should try to engage people through the board meeting itself, which we've talked about, just people have lives. This is too long. A lot of it is not the work that the community wants to do. They want to engage for different purposes. So I almost feel like that bucket, we can maybe think about just get off that hill, work on a calendar that will work for us to do the meeting. And then in the summer, talk about as a board, okay, based on what's happening in this meeting, how do we want to message? Brisa, you spoke about it a little bit, like this idea of maybe a quick video of you saying, this is a topic at the meeting, and then you sending it out to your social media people and, different ways that we can help engage. That's to me over here. Over here, what I'm kind of hearing and wondering is if we looked at a draft 1, which leaves 1 big meeting a month, and we start that meeting at 5:30. That meeting will be the work business section. So no 4:30, but 5:30, very consistent. I'm also not opposed to 6, but 6 makes a really long night, especially as we're starting to have a few more times where we have board discussion. 4:30, of course, I like because then cabinet and everybody is still here, so they can just go right to the board meeting. But I think, again, this is a meeting for the board. And that second business session, I'm kind of interested in playing around with the idea. I'm not a fan of any of these being Zoom or hybrid options. I think, to me, I don't really care what calendar. I just want whoever's on this board to be at these meetings in person. So building a calendar where we can say, we are all gonna be at these meetings together. Of course, with the flexibility when we can't, or the high, you know, we do that, but this second meeting, this business session, I've asked about this, I don't think we have a clear answer, and this is first read, so Alma, to your point, first read tonight, so we will come back to it for a discussion, and there's no reason we can't also share with the community this discussion. That second meeting, if it was just the board, like we were doing the Thursday Zoom, but in person and public noticed, and maybe much more informal, where we're in, I don't know where we could be, it doesn't have to be the boardroom, but that second meeting is just a smaller version of a business meeting, maybe without all the bells and whistles, maybe without the cabinet needing to be there, because that is the meeting during the month where we are talking about different topics, or maybe sneaking in a couple actions, not sneaking.
No,
We never sneak.
no.
I mean, like, at that second meeting where there's an opportunity where there is an action item or something in the community happening, there's still a space for that. We're in person, it's public notice, everybody could still come, but it's that one, I think maybe if we're in agreement, if we all could make that second meeting, maybe is a 4:30, that works.
Chair Cox,
Yes.
is that essentially taking the virtual meetings we had this year, making them in person, but as a similar idea to
Yes.
smaller format, focus conversation, maybe
Yeah.
a couple of action items, okay.
So crossing off the whole business that second meeting on draft one becomes that. What was the Zoom meeting? That style of meeting. And I think there's always, the board can certainly always add another evening meeting if we needed it, or we needed a time for the community to come, but I think now we're talking about different formats. If the community, we need to talk to people, then that's a different type of meeting, or maybe like we did for the budget committee, more of a conversation.
Are we against the Zoom meetings? Is that what I'm hearing or
Well,
understanding?
I do not love a Zoom meeting. I can do a Zoom meeting. I just think it's so difficult in a Zoom to have this kind of conversation. I would rather if we had to stand up a quick meeting, then that meeting might be Zoom if we had to do action items. But when we actually meet in person, I just am nervous that I think we're trying to convince kids to come to school and be in person, and we're trying to convince families to engage. And I think it's not too much to ask a board to meet twice a month in person for a couple hours. Finding a schedule where we all feel like we could do that. My point is that second meeting, I don't think maybe needs to involve everybody that's just sitting here waiting for us to be done, so can we separate those two meetings? So the big meeting is, yeah, we're all there. There's gonna be presentations, there's gonna be business. That second meeting, the board is discussing, and with flexibility of who might need to come still and do a presentation.
Sure.
I don't know. That's where I stand. So I like draft one for that reason, but changing that business session from 5, maybe it's at 5:30, finding a time with the new board appointee too,
Mhm.
that works in person. And that's just my opinion. So 4 of you might say, no, that second meeting is good in Zoom. And again, like Pete said, I'm not gonna die on that hill, but I like the model of us being in person for everybody, I think is important.
Madam Chair, I don't know how many people voted for the 3 new members of the school board a year ago, July, but I'm pretty sure it was under 50%.
I know, but it
Voter
was like
turnout.
4 or 5.
And this is not a reflection on Director Lozano's viewpoint of the importance of public input. But sometimes people vote to say, I'm voting for Alma Lozano and Brisa Franco and the Village Idiot. Let them make the decisions. That's what they want to do. And it just continually saying we need public involvement, we need public involvement. The public voted. And some of them voted saying, I'm giving you the responsibility in this representative form of government to make those decisions. Now, if you make a wrong decision, Director Truax, we're gonna recall you, but it would have to be a very, very wrong decision to be recalled, and I just, I look at the voter turnout. And I think that's where we ought, if we're going to increase citizen participation, that's where we start. I don't like the idea of waiting and not making a decision that is crucial to a student's education until I get all 6 sides of the question answered. I have a viewpoint. People elected me because I have that viewpoint. Not because I'm just another pretty face. Don't be left. And they, to be blunt, they have to live with it. In any elective body, you are saying to those people you send to Salem or to Washington DC or to the district office in Forest Grove, you're saying to them, you guys make the decision. I'll tell you when you're wrong. And there raises a little angst in me that legislative bodies try to get everybody to answer the question when everybody says, that's your job, damn it. And I've been rambling on, so I'm but this idea that we can make the effort to increase public involvement, I'll grant you that. And perhaps we should. But if the public says, no, you take care of it, then we say, okay, we're gonna take care of it. And we move on.
Okay, so I'm gonna disagree with about 63% of what you just said there, but not now, because I also agree with some of what you said. I think what you're talking about, Pete, again, I think this conversation is a summer retreat conversation. I mean, I think there's, what you're bringing up here is kind of a difference in philosophy and in how people do this work, but also how a board then would choose to do the work, and then how that all has to change depending on situation and all the things that we deal with. So I think it's a bigger conversation. My question right now would be, how do you feel about calendar 1? Do we feel like we can set the dates on calendar 1 to try this schedule? And then in the summer, have this longer discussion about engagement and where we're engaging and how we do the work, Pete, like in these roles, because you do get to choose how you each do the work, and the board itself together will decide how we then do the work together. But with regards to just this calendar, because my understanding, it's essential that we get the calendar set so that the rest of the world can set their next calendar for the year. And I might let Dr. West, I mean, not that there's an urgency that we must do this, but do I feel like we're leaning towards a calendar 1 option with one big meeting a month, one separate meeting that's maybe yet to be defined with structure, but not necessarily needing to be a full second board meeting?
If you take out the 4:30 and put TBD, I'm okay with that.
Or, okay, sure. We can do times later.
The one thing I wanted to suggest is, that perhaps as you're putting the calendar, you can still put the dates together. But maybe have one of the board meetings in the fall at, El Centro, instead of, in the community somewhere, and then in a different location in the spring, not at the district office, just to see if you would get more community members to come or not. So that may be one of your discussions. Because I think sometimes when you go for the community versus the community coming to you, it might work, but it might not work.
You'd be in New Zealand, then.
Well, it depends. I might be back. I could sit there and raise my hand.
Yeah, all good.
Teresa, Alma, where are you with these?
I'm okay with draft 1. We can figure out times. Yeah, that's fine with me.
Draft one does not sit well with me, but I am willing to give new things a try.
You like draft two?
Draft two is basically what we're doing now, right?
Right.
I think again, my only worry is just one big meeting a month
Mm-hmm. Okay, well,
and the disconnect that even we can have as a board. And what that would look like. I think those are my only concerns and worries, but if this is something that we want to try out and see how it works, then I'm all for it. But those kind of my worries, and it just doesn't sit well, and I can't really articulate why right now, but.
well, that's fine, because it's first read, and so I think too, we can think about, those 2 dates will still be on the calendar, so whether we get back to, let's just have it be that second meeting. I think this is first read, so we can kind of percolate on all this and then come back to it. Okay, all right, thank you, everybody, information, okay, board discussion, okay. Gonna adjourn at 8:35 PM. Yes. Thank you.